Welcome to the Beauty Pro Wellness Podcast, the podcast that mixes wellness with personal development tips and info specifically for beauty industry professionals. I'm your host, Abby O'Sullivan, a longtime esthetician and lash artist turned wellness coach. With burnout and health issues on the rise amongst my beauty pro friends, I know we need a space to come together, to learn, support each other, and get the push you need to take care of your health. Together, we'll dive into topics like mobility training for a less achy body, managing stress and the chaos of running a business and handling clients, setting up your self-care routines, and so much more. You deserve to feel as good as your clients do when they leave you. Let's make time for you, starting with this podcast.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Beauty Pro Wellness Podcast. I gotta say, it feels good to be recording because I've actually been sick. Maybe you can still hear it in my nasally voice here, but I've been a bit sick. I've had a sinus cold that's just been really miserable. I've had very little energy and I've sounded really hoarse in the last week or so. And I just finally, my voice is still a little off, but I finally have some energy to think. My brain is finally working again and I had some energy to record. And I really wanted to get this episode out. We're going to be talking about how to make the most of beauty conferences. If you're attending, whether it's I just got back from the Lash conference, so I am going to reference that a little bit, but I've been to other conferences as well. And I think that if you're going to attend them, there are definitely some tips that you can take to make the most of your time there. I know that in the aesthetics industry, in the lash industry, even as a nail artist, in a hair salon, I know that there are a lot of beauty professionals that we tend to work more alone and we're kind of isolated a little bit with our clients. Maybe you work on a small team and you're very comfortable in your space and you might consider yourself an introvert. You might consider yourself a bit more uncomfortable in these large groups and in these conference type situations. And so I also wanted to provide some insight from somebody who also has felt the same way. And I know that there are so many of you out there that do feel that way. It's intimidating to go to a conference alone for the first time and just not know how or if you're going to make any friends or not. So let's dive in. I have been going to beauty conferences for a really long time, but in the beauty industry since 2008. And I typically have gone to what is known as the IECSC and IBS conference. It's the International Beauty Show along with the International Aesthetics Cosmetics Spa Conference. Is that what that one stands for? It's really long, but that one's in Vegas. There's the one that I typically go to. I know that one's hosted in a few different cities. I've gone to that one probably 8 times, and that one is mostly a trade show. It's the huge trade show. That is where you go to buy some product. And you can also meet people from brands that you admire, and you can take extra classes that they host as well. And then there are usually some type of parties. There's always been some sort of mix and mingle parties. And I know that there are a lot more of those happening outside of the conference as well. I just think that it's become more popular for brands to host little mix and mingle type things so that you can meet people outside of the trade show. I've also attended smaller conferences for mostly estheticians, the NAS Pro events that are hosted all over the U.S. They are very education driven. They're about networking, and you get to meet people from skincare brands as well. I've also been to a couple of other lash conferences that are sort of a mix of, networking and business and education. I've worked trade shows before, so I've actually been on the other side of that. I just have a few different perspectives. And I've also attended conferences in the health and fitness side of things too. So I have attended different conferences in different fields. I'll just kind of run through my experience with different conferences and different networking events, because really I feel like this can apply to almost any type of situation that you're walking into where there's going to be a little bit of business mixed with, networking and connection. And all of these conferences, they can be different in their structure and all the little add-ons that they have, but the same principles really apply throughout. So I have been to the International Beauty Show that couples along with the IECSC. It's International Aesthetics, Cosmetics, and Spa Conference. Those two, they hang out together in Vegas, I think like 2 other cities, but I've gone to the one in Vegas probably like 8 times. It's huge. Like this is the one, it's a huge trade show. This is where you go to buy all the product and you get to meet people, behind the brands that you love. You can take some of the extra classes and it's like 2 or 3 days. So that's a super fun one. But it to me, that one is way more about shopping and a little bit of learning depending on what classes you're interested in. Typically within the lash industry, there are not a lot of extra classes. So if you're an esthetician or a hairstylist, like you're going to see some bonus stuff. But typically for us lash artists, there were not a lot of extra classes going on. I haven't been for a few years, so maybe that's changed. But you also get to meet people that, are behind the brands that you love as well. And then there are usually some type of parties that are extra that, are connected to the conference, but they're, an extra event that you can attend and actually meet some people in your industry. I've been to the NASN Pro conferences before. I've actually spoke at them and attended them, and they're great. They're more intimate, and they're hosted in all locations around the U.S., all kinds of locations. And it's a business, networking, and also some trade show. And then I've also attended conferences in the health and fitness industry as well. One of those was like a more educational for like a certification, and then some of those have been more business based. And for the last 5 years, I've attended the Lash conference, which is the biggest lash conference. It's the biggest conference for lash artists based around business and I would say networking. The trade show has absolutely grown. So now you can also get your shopping in there too. But there's a lot of education and there's a lot of opportunity to connect with people, either through the events during the day, just being there, and the parties at night. So here are my tips for you to help you make the most out of these events. And obviously, your goals, might be different for each type of conference that you're attending, but there is an abundance of opportunity in every single one of these types of conferences, every single one of these events. There's a lot of opportunity that awaits you. And I will be mixing this with my personal experience just because I want you to see what's possible. And I'm just one example, right? So just think of like how many other people have had incredible experiences as well, just from attending these events. So the first tip is check your intention. Like, what is your intention behind coming to this conference? What's your goal? Do you want to make more friends? Do you want to shop the trade show? Do you want to learn? Like, what do you want to learn? What do you want to take away? And I want you to just think about that so that you can set your intentions and set your energy. If your intention is to meet new people, then you need to be in that energy. If the vibe doesn't feel right, like check yourself. Are you putting out what you want? Are you putting it out there? Are you putting it out there that you want to make friends? What actual steps are you taking? Are you walking around with your RBF face because I'm shy, I'm uncomfortable, I'm introverted? Yeah, like you and 90% of the other people that attend these conferences are shy, introverted, work alone. And people say like, come up to me and say, hey, well, like, listen, we've got to smile a little bit. We've got to look like we actually want to be talked to. And I'm not telling you to, be something that you're not, but if you want to make friends, but then you don't make any friends and then you want to complain about it, I just want you to check yourself and look in the mirror and just ask like if you're actually putting out the vibes that is what you want. And I will say one of the quickest ways. All right, so I've worked the Lash conference. I've worked at the Lash conference as staff and as a volunteer for the last 3 years. I've been a speaker. I started attending in 2019. I was just an attendee. And then the next year I was asked to host a morning movement class. And I've done that for the last four conferences, last 4 years. And then that was a virtual conference. When I started doing that, that was 2020. In 2021, I started volunteering. In 2022, I was a staff member. And in 2023, I was also a staff member. And I will say 100%, one of the ways to change the vibe of a whole conference is to become a volunteer yourself. You then firsthand get to see what's going on behind the scenes. You get to be the difference in somebody else's experience. You get to connect with a lot of different people, different professionals of all varied experience and background that are working this event, that have the same goal to make sure everyone has the best experience possible. You get to connect with them. You get to connect with the attendees. You get to be that face that like you want, you get to be there for them too. And in turn, like you're going to have fun. Our volunteers had a great time. Like we enjoyed being able to get to know them. They got to see the behind the scenes. They still got some swag. They get a t-shirt, and they get to attend the conference. That's actually a perk of being a volunteer at LashCon is you get to attend for free. Your ticket is paid by your volunteer work. Now you still got to like do your room and your flight and all of that. But you get to attend LashCon. So just for like that specific example, if that's something that you're thinking about attending and you're curious about it, why not? Just jump in. If you want to get over the introverted, shy vibes, like throw yourself in the pool, right? But even at these other events, like where I, maybe volunteering wasn't an option, I have also considered myself a bit shy and introverted, and it feels uncomfortable to like be in a class or in a conference where you don't really know anyone and you're like, oh my God. But you just have to put yourself out there. You sometimes need to find the person who just looks really friendly, just that group of people that are maybe talking about something that you also are interested in or have questions around or also know something about, like maybe you can contribute in some way, or just listening and asking genuine questions, like being curious. When I went to one, it was kind of like a conference, and it was kind of like a business conference / education certification too. And, we were kind of working together to solve a problem for our certification together. And I just turned around to the girls behind me and I'm like, all right, we're working together. And I also just chose to hop in people's cars or whatever for lunch. Like, hey, where are you guys going? Okay, cool. Can I ride with you? I've done that at that particular event. I did that several times because I didn't have a vehicle in Scottsdale. And I met so many great people and I got to know them just by hopping in their car. And, luckily these people are all awesome and they were genuine and they were open to, making friends with me. But I just really give myself credit for that because it's not something that I always would have been comfortable doing. I mean, obviously, like, use your judgment with this, but like we're all going to be hanging out for a couple of days and we're going like a mile away. Like, hey, can I ride with you? And some of the relationships I was able to form just based on hopping into people's cars was great. And just being open to the person who wanted to, actually, I want to tell this story because we're still friends and I love this story. I noticed a girl in this class that she changed her seat like every day of our conference. And I was like, what is she doing? Like, she's just trying to sit by everybody. And I was judging her kind of, like I was like, who is this girl? But I was judging her because I was like, wow, she has balls to just meet new people. She is turning around and she's talking to people and she's engaging with them. And I think I found that intimidating, like I was like, oh my God, could I ever do that? Like, that's exactly why I was kind of struggling with it. And she turned around and she started a conversation with me and we started talking about the spa industry and just all these different things. And she was so like, her personality was I could tell she was very driven. And she's from Jersey and she talks a little faster. And it was just, I was like, okay, cool. Like she's going places. I just thought like this girl is on a mission. It's so funny how interesting our first impressions are, right? And we have been friends. We've been buddies ever since. And I have watched her do exactly that, just grow and take off. And she's just going after it. And yeah, I mean, like, it hasn't been like a linear path for her or for me, but we've still stayed connected. And we've been able to talk through that. And we've just seen each other and supported each other through that growth. And she is an inspiration to me. And that's why I always have to laugh, is because I was like, I saw you and I was like kind of intimidated. Like, this girl will talk to anybody. Like, I just thought that was intimidating and kind of, I was like, why? Like, why is she doing that? So there's another tip for you, is just like, it's just being open, and also like putting yourself out there and engaging in conversation when somebody's trying to genuinely engage with you. Like, again, if I had just been like, whatever, like, I would have not had this really cool friend for the last 3 years. Maybe these tips kind of all run together, but it put yourself in new rooms. Even if you're alone, look for the opportunities to network, either through the meetups that some of these conferences have, like lunches, like going to lunch with a group of people, sitting with people that you don't know as well, especially if you've attended a conference several times in a row, like I have. I tend to have my buddies. But going to lunch or sitting with people that you see from the conference that you haven't had a chance to chat with, just taking the opportunity to kind of put yourself in an uncomfortable situation so that you can expand yourself, your mind, your network, your life, your business, whatever. You just never know. At the Lash conference, we actually have a lunch buddy system. We have a social wall on our conference app. Yes, we have a conference app, and it's freaking amazing. But we have a way for people to connect, beyond just like going up to somebody in person. Like, there's actually scheduled meetups for lash artists and salon business owners and sponsors. There are ways for people to connect when they're not really sure how to. So take advantage of that if the conference that you're attending has something like that. If there is a luncheon you can attend, if there is an evening dinner that you can attend. Yes, sometimes we are tired and we just want to go back to our room, or we just need some quiet space. And I do think that you should honor that sometimes. And I also think that sometimes these events don't last very long. They are short. And it's so, you just truly never know what can happen from these interactions. And just pushing yourself a little bit more, sometimes it's worth it. Like, yes, I will be underslept for 5 days, but will I have made some connections that I'm so happy that I made? Yeah. But also I have learned to pace myself as well at the parties. I don't know if that's because I'm like older or what, but when I'm working the Lash conference, like I just can't stay out all night. I don't want to drink heavily. That's not what it's about for me. And on that note, also, when you're paying like thousands of dollars to be there, why are you like getting wasted and then sleeping in and wasting your time? I personally do not see the point in that. I get it. Like, people just, it happens and you want to have fun and you want to let loose, and it's your vacation, it's your trip, do whatever you want. But I will say, like, you're missing out if you're sleeping in. You're really missing out if you're getting super drunk and feeling hungover and feeling shitty or needing to sleep in the next day. Truly, you're missing out on a lot of goodness. Also, you can do that at home anytime you want. Like, why are you wasting your time doing that at an event like that? Something that I want to stress here is, like, yes, come prepared. Maybe you've looked over the schedule, what events that you want to attend, like, you have an idea of how you want your weekend to go. But also be willing to go with the flow. Be willing to go to whatever class calls you, or if a brand piques your interest, or if somebody just kind of be willing to listen to your intuition a little bit. Be willing to let go of some of the control of this is how this has to look, or this is how this has to be. Like I said, if I hadn't, jumped in a vehicle, or if I hadn't said hello to that person, or here's a really great example. Like, if I hadn't gone up to this brand or gone to their little after party, I would have never become a trainer in the lash industry. And I would have never gotten some of the opportunities that came from that if I hadn't just kind of been open to going with the flow and really open to opportunities. Maybe they seemed like opportunities for fun, but I also knew that I wanted to be a trainer in the industry. And I had a connection with a friend, and these people seemed cool. So showing up to their party and getting to know them, we all had a great time. And when they were looking to recruit trainers in the next few months, my name came up, and I was like, heck yeah. And I was able to grow with them in my own professional career that way too. So you just truly never know what can come from putting yourself out there just a little bit and engaging in genuine conversation. And one thing that I have really tried to do at the Lash conference is truly just connect with people. I only do lashes a couple of days a week now. So when I walk up to these brands in the trade show, I'm not really looking to buy. And that makes me feel kind of weird. Like I'm wasting their time. I'm not really interested in your product, but I just want to chat and get to know you. Do they really have time for that? But really, I had to switch my mindset around that too. I'm an advocate for beauty professionals and their wellness. And I just wanted to introduce myself. And I want to hear what your business is about. And I want to hear if you're having a good show. And I just want to kind of genuinely connect, when they're not super bogged down with customers, obviously. If people are trying to get to the booth and buy stuff, I'm not going to stand there and take up a bunch of time. But just doing that this year, even, I was able to meet people that I hadn't met before. I didn't have a lot of time, but I was able to use it in a way that, we'll see, but I'm just glad that I got to meet these people in the first place. And that also, as a staff member of LashCon, I get to represent LashCon, and I get to be somebody who was genuinely interested in how their show was going and if they've had, good feedback from the attendees and whatever. And that's great. There's a lot of things happening there that have a positive ROI, if you will, right? And a couple extra little things that I want to add here are ask for help if you need it. If you need help finding something, there's nothing wrong. And just asking the first staff member that you see, or what's going on in here and where and when and all of that. Even asking how you could get involved if they take volunteers. Maybe you really are interested in helping this company put on this event or something like that. Maybe that's your jam and you want to help out. So just asking for help, asking if you can help, asking how you can get involved. And people ask a lot of us that work LashCon, how did you end up where you are? And I'm honestly, I don't really know, but I did meet Paul and Tessany Lubers, who are the hosts of the Lash conference and Lashcast, the podcast, which came first. I did meet them at the IBS, the International Beauty Show in Vegas in 2019. I met them there. I think I saw them at the conference, and I met them at an after party hosted by Ali Lilly. I think it was Lash Anarchist and Lash Bomb were hosting, or maybe it was just Lash Anarchist. I'm not really sure. It might have been both, that they were hosting this after party in a hotel room. And it was so fun and it was so cool. What I do remember was that she had a lot of banana runs, and I took a handful from a candy jar and put them in my purse and had them as a snack for ever after that. But I got to meet them there. And then I went to the conference that year, and it was very small that year. I think it was 200 people or something like that. And I remember taking a picture with them, telling them, thank you. You're so awesome. This is amazing. I think we maybe did a podcast together, and then I was asked to do the morning movement thing, and it just kind of grew from there. And I've just been a supporter from day one, and I've tried to be a positive supporter and a positive energy that can be brought to LashCon, and I guess they saw that. And then when I volunteered, they saw something in me that I don't know. They saw that I wanted to help, and then they'd ask me if I wanted to help more, and I was like, yes. So it's I don't really know how all of that came, but it just happened, right? And again, that's sort of linked back to getting hired by a brand. It just came from putting myself in their way. I just kind of put myself in somebody's line of sight, and it was something that I also wanted. So it was aligned, right? And if it had been something that I didn't want, then like, I'm so honored you asked. But I will have to unfortunately pass on this. There's nothing wrong with that too. But I know a lot of people, they want to grow and they want to get involved and they want to meet these people. And you just kind of have to like put yourself in the right place. Just put yourself out there, because in the right place and time, it'll all align and it'll all happen. And then the last thing that I like think is so important for these types of things is to have your care kit, like take care of your health. Yes, I know I said push yourself a little bit earlier, but I fully believe in having some of the comforts of home that can also help you take care of your physical health. And also like knowing when you need just a little bit of time alone to recharge. Like there's nothing wrong with that either. And you have to recognize that if you want to keep going all weekend and not be totally drained and exhausted whenever you leave. But I bring a particular type of throat lozenge. They're an elderberry with zinc throat lozenge. I bring my throat spray for my voice because I lose my voice so easily, even if I'm not sick. So I bring that with me. And yes, it fits in my carry-on stuff. Ibuprofen, extra Band-Aid, like for your feet or whatever. I'm all about like comfortable shoes these days. I don't even bother with heels because I'm just like walking so much. It's pointless. But that and hot tea, even packing like your own snacks to make sure that you have something. But I also am one of those people who immediately is like, who wants to place a grocery order with me? Or where's the nearest Target? Or where's the nearest grocery store that I can go to and get things for my room so that I don't have to worry about waiting in long lines for breakfast. I just don't have time for that at these things. I don't really want to make time for it necessarily either. So if I can just have some things that I can snack on really quickly, lots of protein is usually what I go for. And then oats are super easy. And, like one of the coffee cups at the hotel. If you want any extra tips on that, I feel like I'm so very good at that now. And I'm just getting better each year. My what I call my LashCon care kit is definitely growing. Electrolytes that I didn't bring enough of this year, and I would 100% bring so much more. I probably just should have like doubled the packets that I brought because I only brought a few. So electrolytes are really, really helpful. Making sure that you're staying hydrated. And then you could also bring like a sleep supplement if that's your thing, something with like a little bit of GABA to help you relax, kind of bring down some of the adrenaline and dopamine and excitement from the day so that you can get some rest. Because I will say like you'll get so much more out of your days. You'll be able to retain more of the information and you'll just feel better if you get some decent sleep at these events. And obviously it depends on like, if you're in Vegas and you want to have like, I've had some wild Vegas times, and the trade show isn't really like a hard, like you don't really have to think when you're there. So it's not like I was going to perform. If I was working, then yes, I was calm. But whenever like you're just going to attend, those aren't really the type of thing where you have to be fully, 100%, and Vegas is Vegas. So like every experience is different. But personally, when I'm at something that's more educational or at the Lash conference, I want to have more of a clear head. So I don't drink a lot. I try to get as much sleep as possible, which isn't really always, it's not always a lot, but that way you actually are getting what you came for, And then actually, let's just go ahead and add on another tip here, because you're going to collect a lot of information. Maybe you're going to meet a lot of people, you get their business card, you follow each other on social media. And then what happens after that? Do you just go back to your life and like you just kind of, creep these people on Instagram, you like their posts or whatever? How can you strengthen that connection further? How can you, put it to good use? Like, just saying hi, like, hey, I was thinking about you. Like, how is this thing going that we talked about at the conference? Like, how's everything going with you? And that doesn't have to be something you do all the time, but it's really cool. Like, if you're thinking of somebody, just reach out to them. Or like, hey, do you want to go live on Instagram and chat about this thing like that we were talking about? Or do you want to come on my podcast? Or, how could we collab, like work together in some way? Or how could I support you in your business this week? Or whatever. But there's so many ways to keep up like the momentum of that conference that you just attended. There's so many ways to stay connected with that energy and those feelings that you were feeling when you were there, and further cement some of those connections that you've made and grow your business possibly at the same time. You just never know. And on that note, it's okay if you only made like 3 really solid connections. Like maybe you started following a lot more people, but you only keep in touch with like 2 or 3 people. I feel like that is really solid. Whenever I want to make new friends, I don't think like, I want to make 10 new friends. Like that's a lot of people to keep up with. It's truly a lot of people to keep up with. And like, yes, I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm just saying like, if you're thinking like, I don't feel like I met that many people, well, who did you meet? Who did you connect with? And just like focus on that. Just focus on that. Just because there's a classroom full of people doesn't mean we're going to be friends with all of them. It's the same thing in school, right? It's just like, it's a capacity thing. Okay, so go out there, use these tips for the next conference that you attend. Stay open to all the opportunities that await you. I promise they are lying around every single freaking corner. Just open your eyes and be open to it. Go with the flow a little bit. Come prepared to take care of your health. Stay hydrated. That really will solve a ton of problems. Stay hydrated. Get some rest. Take care of yourself. Check your vibes at the door. Check your vibes, honey. If you want to make friends, if you want people to approach you, check your energy. Are you putting out the RBF vibes? Are you smiling at people? Like, it's okay to be the first one to say hi, and it's okay if that person has a weird reaction. A lot of us are just awkward as fuck. And when somebody says hi to us, we're like, oh my God, what? But you never know. Like a simple like, hey, how's it going? That literally could change somebody's day. And that could open up conversation for y'all. So it helps you because it helps you put yourself out there and get you more comfortable with just being like, hey, what's up? Like, hey, how's it going? Like, there's nothing wrong with saying that. There's nothing wrong with being the friendly one. If people give you a weird look, that is their fucking problem and they are not your people. Move on. You will find the people who are like, oh my God, it's going great. Like, how are you? What are you doing? Where are you going for lunch? Like, let's hang out. You will find those people. I promise. Just keep trying. Put yourself in those uncomfortable situations. Put yourself in new rooms. Go up to your favorite people and say hi to them. Go up to the brands. Introduce yourself. Like, oh my gosh, I love your product. I just want to tell you that. Like, I really appreciate what you guys are doing in the world. Like, they love to hear that and they will be so happy to connect with you over that. I promise. And that is it. That is like my post LashCon wrap up, but also just tips you can take with you to any conference or networking event. Alrighty, good luck. See you in the next episode.
Thank you for tuning into the Beauty Pro Wellness Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, hit subscribe so you don't miss out on new episodes, leave a review, and share with your friends in the beauty industry. Beauty Pro Wellness Podcast is produced and crafted by Wonder Podcast Productions.